Hi, and welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. So today is my weekly update, number 29, and it is Sunday, August 20, 2023. So what have I been up to this week? Well, I quilted something. I bound 4 quilts. I did some more shop hopping and some other things. Oh, and I started a new series. Started What Will I Make? So I started on that quilt, and my shop hop, this is my passport. Now, this shop hop is all over Ohio. There's 60 shops, and it goes all through August and September. So far, I am up to 37 shops. So I still got another 23 to go, but I still got plenty of time to do it. So there's a map of Ohio. So another 23 shops to get to, and then that will be done. Now this week I've got a lot of videos I plan on doing. I have my weekly update, which I'm doing now. I have my week 3 shop hop that I'm going to do. I also just got my Creative Notion subscription bag. So samplers should be coming. I bound some more quilts, so now I've got 10 quilts, so I can do a part 11 of a trunk show. And I have to finish my Winter Stars quilt. So lots of videos coming up to do. Okay, so what did I quilt this week on the long arm? Well, it's this quilt behind me. Now this quilt behind me is not mine, so you haven't seen it before. It was my mom's. She just asked me to quilt it for her, so I did. And I quilted it with a pantograph that had football helmets and footballs and some stars. The stars in it I don't think really turned out well. If I had to do it again, I would leave the stars out and just put a loop where the stars were, but it's done. So we'll go in, take a closer look at everything. Alright, so there's a football and football helmets and stars. Let me see if I can get a better football helmet. There's a better football helmet. Like I said, I don't particularly like how the stars came out, but that's okay, it's done. Alright, now let's see if I can get a better picture of the whole quilt, because this is a very large quilt. It's a king size quilt. And it is an OSU quilt that Mom made. So let's go pan over here across the top. And then we'll come down. And go back over here to the middle. There was that panel. So she started with the panel and then just kind of worked her way out. Going down there. So that's that. Okay, I'll flip it over and you can see the backing she used. There's those football helmets popping out again. And footballs. Okay, so that's what I quilted on the long arm this week. But what else did I do? Well, I put the binding on 4 more quilts. So as I was taking this quilt down, I realized that Mom had put a label on here. That was her label. Okay, so let me put this aside. And this is the first quilt that I put the binding on. It is my April Cotton Cuts Gnomes. So we'll go in, take a closer look at it. So here is that April Cotton Cuts Gnomes that I put together into a quilt. Now, when I quilted it, I used the Cloudy Day quilt pattern. Just because April showers bring May flowers, and I didn't have a rain pantograph, but I did have a Cloudy Day one, so that's what I put on it. So the next quilt I put a binding on this week is my pineapple quilt. Now this was made using the pineapple paper fats from Fat Quarter Shop. This was also a free sew along that they did several years ago. So let's take a closer look at it. All right, so here's a closer look up at that quilting. It was quilted with this Whipsy pantograph, and the binding is just this gray. And the back, and there's the backing, and my quilt label is over on this other side, if I can grab it. There we go. I got strings, and there's that quilt label. All right. And this is the third quilt I put a binding on this week. Now, the binding was just that black, almost, well, it was a dark gray, almost black batik in for there. We'll take a closer look. I did quilt it with a graduation pantograph that had graduation caps and diplomas and stuff on it. So let's take a closer look. Okay. There it is with the binding. Those graduation diplomas and graduation caps. And a label. Now my labels I do buy from Sweetwater Label Company. However, you can buy a subscription each month. I don't do the subscription. I just buy a sheet at a time and use the same label. I do put the year on it, so every year I do have to change that. All right, let's look at the last one. And this fall quilt behind me is the third quilt I put a binding on this week. Now with this binding, I just did a scrappy binding and used all the fabrics I used for those leaves. Now this was a panel that I'd cut apart and then made some leaf blocks to put around it. There it is. Now that was quilted with a all over leaf pantograph. And once again, there's my label. So I quilted that king size quilt for my mom. I bound 4 quilts. And I also started working on a new quilt, which I'm making that series on What Will I Make? And this is the block. Now this is the Winter Star video tutorial from Missouri Star. That's the block I'm making. But I'm going to try and show you this without dumping it. This is where I am so far. So I have all my pieces stacked up. I just need to pin them together and sew them in like a 9-patch unit. So I worked on all of that. So as far as quilting goes, that's all I've done this week. Now, I did get some things in the mail. I got this Bigfoot pantograph. And I got this to put on this legendary quilt pattern by Elizabeth Hartman whenever I get around to making it. So I got that, and I also bought this pantograph, which are Suns, and I bought that to put on my watermelon or June Cotton Cuts Gnomes quilt. Because you need the sun to make the things grow. So that pantograph, that sun pantograph, will go on this quilt top. So that's everything I worked on and done with quilting this week. Let me show you a little more about some other things I did. So for cross stitch this week, I'm still working on this Christmas Big Band sampler. Now I had already finished the first half of that on a different piece of fabric. And I'm working on this second half, which I'm right down there on those mittens. I'm still working on those mittens. Now this is on 16 count Aida. And there's where I am on that. And this is all DMC color 817. And just as a refresher, here's that first piece. That very long piece. Here we go. So that's where I am. I think last week I had just started on this mitten down here. I don't exactly remember. Okay, so let me put this up and then I'll show you where we are in my crochet. So last week I had showed you I had made this cardigan and I had finished the cardigan. Showed you that last week. This was the cardigan, and I was trying to use up the rest of that yarn that I had. So I had started making a sock, and I basically had the one sock done. I just had to sew the cuff, which I did, and I made the other sock, so I've got 2 socks made. And I'm still working on using the rest of this yarn. So I started making a hat. There's where I am. I got a few more rows on this hat. And there's my cake of yarn. And then I've still got 2 more hanks of yarn to go. So after I'm done with that hat, I'm going to start making a shawl. See if I can't use up all this yarn here before I move on to my next project. Let me slide all of this back together so we don't lose any of it. Now, I do keep all of my projects. That was my rotary cutter that just fell. That was a good thing it was closed. I do keep all of my projects separated in bags and different totes and bins. So they're not all together. I do have them organized in that way. My kids are over there and they're making fun of me as I do this video. That's not very nice, is it? They're teenagers. Now they're giving me mean looks. Anyway, I started a new diamond painting. And this is what the image is. It's kind of like a waterfall nature scene. And this is as far as I got. Not very far. It's just a small one. That's where we are. All right, so that is everything that I have worked on this week. But like I said, I've got more videos to do. I'm going to do a video about my shop hopping this week. My Creative Notions, I'm going to do an unboxing on that. I need to finish that Winter Star quilt. And I think I can do another trunk show. And my sew sampler should come this week. So look forward to lots of videos coming out from me this week. All right, till next time.